In today's LEGO City update, I'm going to start with the first angled building for this new angled road system I'm adding into my LEGO City layout on the upper platform. And therefore, we firstly have to modify the existing sidewalk. I know it's a bit of an annoying work because I'm basically only rebuilding what I've already done. I'm elevating the whole thing by one plate, and simultaneously I get this added benefit of having added these sort of stairs, which makes the area look a bit more opened and interesting, if you ask me. That already took me a few hours, but since this was just a remodel of what I've already built, I decided to really quickly skip over that whole part. The buildings I've temporarily removed are already being added once again into the layout, and now it's already time to start with a new area for the new angled building. Firstly, I'm of course building the base as always, with one brick added beneath a layer of plates. I'll comment on this small square at the end of the bicycle path at the end of this video, but firstly I want to start with the foundation of the new building. Since the walls of the new building will only be partly placed along the studs, I'm also only adding a few studs where the building is then actually connected with the module I'm currently building, and the rest of the walls of the building will be built at a 45 degrees angle, simply resting on the flat tiles. As you can see right now, I'm only connecting one wall with those studs I've prepared, and the rest is basically simply laid onto this foundation. And now for the style of building, I've chosen to add these tan colored columns, which is heavily inspired by buildings I saw in Vienna, and also this exact type of building style you can find, for example, in Paris. I initially also experimented with other colored windows instead of the white ones, but for this row of houses I honestly preferred once again the white windows because it makes the building look a bit more, I'd say, upper class and sort of noble in a certain way. And I was also thinking about maybe adding a jewelry store into that building, but I haven't decided on anything yet. What I'm doing at the moment is adding another layer of plates and hinges in order to connect all the windows and columns with each other. And now the most difficult part. I somehow had to create an angled first floor. And this was the solution I came up with after hours of experimenting. I was honestly a bit surprised myself that this worked out this good. And what I then did is I used these 45-degree angled cut plates and then added, with the help of hinges, plates along this 45-degree angle, so I can actually build a wall along the 45 degrees angle, which would have otherwise been completely impossible. And now this is of course so satisfying. Just look at this. These small triangle flat tiles to perfectly fill up the small gaps I had remaining in between the cut plates. And this is probably already the part I love the most. Oh, look at this. This is so extremely satisfying. After hours of work and experimenting and designing how this first floor could possibly fit onto the foundation of the building, I was really pleased with how this turned out. Of course, the back wall, which is once again placed at a 45 degrees angle in comparison to the studs beneath it, has to be placed on flat tiles. Otherwise, it would have been impossible to connect it with the base layer of this floor. For the outer walls of the first floor, I'm now using 1x2 brick modifieds in tan with tan colored gold ingots, which, if you ask me, perfectly represents this Vienna and Paris building style. The next floor I've just added, as well as the roof, are basically, when it comes to the building techniques, nearly the same as with the floor I've just built, and therefore we can quickly skip over this part. At this point, I thought the facade was a bit too boring, and therefore I needed to add some contrast and decided to add a balcony in black. So this was basically the most contrast I could have possibly added to this very bright and light colored building at the moment, with a tan colored facade and the white windows and so on. When it came to the roof, I at first wanted to add a rooftop terrace, but then decided against that because I didn't feel like it would really fit this old type of building, and therefore I've elevated and raised the entire roof once again, added plates in light bluish gray in order to add another type of color, and once again I had these extremely satisfying small gaps remaining, which I could perfectly fill up with cut plates as well as those triangle tiles, which is a piece I've honestly fallen in love with while designing this building right here. For now, I'm simply placing a few minifigures onto this area, but this isn't finished yet. I'm still planning on adding something else in front of this building. Next up, I could finally start using all these bicycles I've bought during the last haul. And I've already mentioned it at the beginning of the update. I left this small square at the end of the bicycle path, and this is exactly the spot where I'm now adding a bike stand, or simply a place where you can leave your bike and then walk upstairs in order to get to all the buildings up there. I also bought some new bricks from the Pick a Brick wall. I'll show you that in a second. Before that, I think there's quite a lot to talk about, but this is easier for me now to do it live in the Lego City, so I can better show you what I mean. Firstly, when it comes to the angle of this building and the row of houses following this house, let me just show you what the current angle of the street looks like. And as you can see, these are two different angles. We have a 45-degree angle right here, and then half of that with this street, which means I have to add another angle right here, which makes it much more complicated, but also much more interesting at the same time. And on the other hand, I want to place this road further to the outside, to the right-hand side, so I can actually now have this area solely as a pedestrian space. Then I was thinking about a way to use the rooftop. I had these solar panel tiles, these printed tiles laying around from the moon base, and I was thinking about adding solar panels on top of this building right here. But what I'm not quite sure about is the style of building doesn't really mix with the solar panels added on top, because that's a bit too modern for the rest of the facade of the building. Therefore, I'm not quite sure if I want to keep the solar panels on top of that building, but I definitely plan on adding solar panels on other buildings. This building might not be the perfect choice. During the video, I was also talking about that I don't want to have only minifigures randomly walking around in this area right here. What I was now thinking about is maybe adding a staircase and an elevator in order to reach that part down here. I was talking about adding a metro station at some point beneath the upper platform, and therefore this would be quite a good opportunity to get down to this area. What would otherwise always be an option is to simply have an elevator in order to reach this harbor area down there, because at the moment we only have a staircase leading down there, and therefore it would be quite difficult for persons who can't use a staircase. Oh yeah, and I also might add a proper bike stand right here, just as I've done it down there in this area with these ladders. This is quite a nice building technique, but for now I'm not quite sure how I want to do that. Therefore I've simply placed the bicycles randomly into that small corner. Then I've also visited the new Lego store in Munich this week and immediately emptied basically the entire Pick a Brick wall. Yeah, not the entire Pick a Brick wall, but as you know, I always need leaves and especially stems for my Lego City, and therefore this is by far the best and cheapest way to get these type of bricks. And now for the next months or so, I definitely don't have the problem of possibly running out of these two types of bricks. At the end of this video, I just quickly wanted to say that I'm currently preparing a 1-hour speed build compilation of the Lego City with all the building progress of this year, just so you're prepared and not surprised that there's some weird 1-hour video in your subscription feed. With that being said, that's it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again in the next one.